On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, lots of OU recruiting talk, including Emmett Jones's heater. And of course, we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, June 26th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of June, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Ted, somehow, some way, we've got a lot of OU football stuff to talk about.
Keeps coming, doesn't it?
This program truly is the gift that keeps on giving. And here's where I wanted to start. You and some other former players just killed it. I assume killed it when it came to the Q&A at the Champ U barbecue. And I assume you are the reason all of these commitments are rolling in now. Are you going to take full credit for it?
Yeah. Yes. I was pretty much the catalyst for anything recruiting over the weekend. Champ U barbecue. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a bunch of great guys there together, but I pulled it all together. No, I think honestly, there's a bunch of factors, but I just flat out think there's a bunch of really good recruiters on this staff.
I'm with you. And so right now, Champ U barbecue's in the books. It's now a dead period. So I think it's a good time to take a look at where OU's recruiting class is at. And this is where I want to start. Bud Elliott released his blue chip ratio today for teams heading into the 2024 season. And OU ranks 6th in the country in blue chip ratio. And remember, the blue chip ratio is how many of your high school recruits are 4 and 5-star prospects. It does not take into account transfers. It's how many of your guys that you recruited out of high school that are on your roster, how many of those guys are 4 and 5-star prospects. And OU is at 73%. The only teams with a higher blue chip ratio, Ohio State at 90%, Bama at 88%, Georgia at 80%, A&M at 79%, Oregon at 76%. It may bring a lot of people a lot of joy to know that Texas is one spot behind Oklahoma with 72% blue chip ratio. And Ted, the only reason I really bring this up is to say Brent Venables and his staff are kicking ass on the recruiting trail.
They are. Did you see the breakdown of maybe like the last 5 years of what their ratio has done? I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it was like in the 40s, and it's just gone choop, 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 choop. And here the last 3 years has really grown.
So I went back and looked, right? Lincoln Riley's last season, the 2021 season, heading into that year, OU's blue chip ratio was 66%. Now, I was led to believe that you could not recruit at an elite level in Norman. That's what a lot of us were led to believe, right? Turns out all Brent Venables has done is improve the recruiting. Now, have the results on the field been what you want it to be? No, I think we all can agree on that. But as far as accumulating talent and setting the foundation and getting the guys that have the type of measurables that can go out and win games in the SEC, there is just from any angle you look at it, the recruiting has gotten better under Brent Venables. Period.
Mhm.
And there's only 16 teams in the country that are over the 50% threshold for the blue chip ratio. And OU's one of them, and 8 of them are in the SEC. So you gotta continue to bring in really physically gifted guys. And then of course there's the development component and then going out and executing on game days. But Ted, Brent Venables and this staff, they're doing a nice job, man. And the numbers reflect it.
Yeah, they do. Yet I'm continuously told over and over about what bad shape we're in, and I just keep like I don't know how much stock should be put in this. I mean, recruiting is not an exact science. Where you fall on this list doesn't necessarily mean that you can't beat the teams in front of you and you can't lose to the teams behind you. But I mean, it's just another kind of overall gauge that helps you kind of, try and quantify where teams are roster wise. And I think Oklahoma's roster is good and improving. And I think the most important factor is, we've had a good roster here before Venables came, but like the blue chip percentage, I think we all know that the heavy recruiting was being done on the offensive side. It was pretty weighted towards offense, and I I think the great thing about Venables and staff is the classes that he has signed are incredibly balanced, and that's what you got to have. You got to have a balanced football team. We've sprinkled in some elite players. Gosh, we've had a 5-star quarterback, 5-star offensive lineman. I know he's gone now, Caden Green, but 5-star defensive lineman, 5-star running back, number one running back of the country, 5-star safety. I mean, it's spread really nicely throughout. So, I think the results are going to follow.
One of the interesting things about the blue chip ratio, and I've talked to Bud Elliott about it. He's trying to figure out a way to factor in like big time transfers
Mm-hmm.
eventually. He feels like he still needs more data, a couple more years of that type of stuff, and then maybe he can come up with a creative way to work it in. But I was looking at this and going, man, 73% blue chip ratio. That's really good. Oh, yeah. And their best players on offense and defense may be transfers. Because I think there's a legitimate argument to be made that Deion Burks could be the best player on OU's offense and Dominic Williams could be the best player on OU's defense. And that is no slide at Stutzman or Bowman. Like, I just think that if you put Dominic Williams into a Brent Venables attacking style defense, like I just think he's going to be a better player than he was at TCU. So
I agree.
I'm really excited about the blue chip ratio being at 73%, but I also know that they've got some impact transfers this season, which I mean, I don't know how you measure how important that is, but I know it's important as hell. It's especially Dominic Williams. That was a massive position of need.
Yeah, and I mean Des Malone, Dominic Williams, the offensive line players you
Bauer
mentioned, Deion
Sharp,
Burks, Bauer Sharp. I mean, those are all almost every transfer that we have starting is an improvement over what was there previously. And I mean, you could maybe even make the claim on some of that on the offensive line too. I don't know, but yeah,
oh, wee
it's
woo.
wee woo. And what about center? It's got to be close.
Everyone knows how much I love the way that McCade Matoyer played. But he's a more talented guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got better measurables. And then, yeah, I think that I expect Hickman to be a more consistent player than Andrew Rain was. I just do. We're getting off track from the blue chip ratio.
We are.
We're just diving into the roster like we always do. But
It's us wanting to count those in our ratio is what we're what we're saying.
what I just think they're going to be. So you've recruited a lot of talented guys out of high school, and you're adding impact transfers. I just think that that is OU is starting to develop the formula that I think Brent Venables wants for this football team,
Mhm.
where your foundation is your high school guys. You're bringing in long, athletic guys that have the measurables you want. And then you're filling some of those gaps with big time transfer guys that are going to be impact players. Not not like the first season when he had to take a ton of transfers just to have bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that we're number 6 on this ratio. I think we're behind A&M. Um, how do you how do you value that with A&M? I don't know, but I think if you consider all of the players, we have a top 5 roster, I think. And I think that's a really good place to be. Top 5 roster is where you want to be. And yet again, uh, Bama, Georgia, A&M is in there, and then Oklahoma. And trailing behind us in a long train behind us is all the teams that are picked to beat us this year in the SEC. So, I mean, in my opinion, no excuses. And not that you got to take this as gospel, but I mean, I think it's reason enough to believe that we have a very competitive roster.
No doubt about it. One interesting thing, because I know that a lot of fans want to say, stars aren't everything, they don't matter. They are very important. And here's a little stat from Bud Elliott's Blue Chip Ratio article: 4 and 5 stars are about 10 times more likely to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft than 2 and 3 stars. And 5 stars are about 33 times more likely to be an All American as a 2 star. It's not that there's not great stories about 2 star and 3 star recruits and those guys becoming All Americans and becoming draft picks. Ted, you were one of those guys. I was one of those guys. But it really helps to just have guys that are really, really physically gifted
Mm-hmm.
and have those guys in your program and develop those guys. I still think the key for OU is elite development and then just winning the X's and O's battles with Venables and Seth Luttrell and Joe John and now Zach Alley. But man, it was refreshing to see that OU is essentially right there when it comes to getting the talent out of high school.
How about Ohio State at 90?
It's pretty good. Pretty
Pretty
good.
good.
They got some really good transfers too.
Yeah, I think the transfer probably puts them around the 95% mark. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
High expectations there
That's
in
right.
Columbus. Now, let's continue the recruiting conversation. Nothing gets the fan base going like a QB commit, baby. He was at the barbecue. Did you do this? Did you get Jaden O'Neal to commit? Is this your work, Ted Lehman?
I wish I could take credit for this, but I don't think I met him there.
How'd you miss him? He's
I don't
six
know.
three.
That's a grown ass man, isn't it?
He
I
looks good, man. I
He
was watching
looks
the
really
highlights.
good.
Yeah, he looks. He is not he is not dainty
No,
at all. And
no.
class of 2026 quarterback Jaden O'Neal has committed to OU over Ohio State, Miami, Washington, Florida State, and others. Committed on Monday night. And that's the first thing. When you turn the highlight film on, that guy looks the part. Sixth ranked quarterback in the class of 2026. It's so important to get your quarterback in the boat early. He becomes the face of your recruiting class. He then becomes one of your most important recruiters, right? He's the guy that goes and talks to all the other kids. He's making calls. He's sending texts. He becomes an extra member of your coaching staff, is what happens with how these quarterbacks operate once they commit. And Jaden O'Neal looks like a good one, man. I mean, physically, he looks good.
He does. And he's 6'3", 215 right now, and he's about to play his junior year of high school. So, I mean, and by the looks of him, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to be leaning out as he grows up. I mean, like the thing I feel like, and I don't know, I haven't seen any of his measurables as far as like how fast he is and stuff like that. I assume he's fast, but it kind of reminds me like physically size wise of like Milroe at Alabama.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not as athletic as Jalen Milroe, who is
Yeah.
like the fastest guy on Alabama's roster.
Yeah.
Guy's an
He's
absolute freak
crazy.
of nature. But just, and all I have to go off is, I've talked to some people that have seen him camp in person, and then I've watched the highlights. He looks plenty mobile, but he does seem like a guy that wants to play from the pocket,
Sure.
which personally I like. Of course, you want an athletic guy. That's a huge piece of playing the quarterback position now. And if you go watch the highlights, it's clear he's got mobility. He can get out of trouble. I don't. It doesn't appear they're dialing up like a bunch of called QB run game for him or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. But he's a guy that wants to play. This sounds so stupid, but he wants to play quarterback.
Yeah.
He wants to
Good.
throw the ball from the pocket. And when you watch that highlight film, dude, he is ripping it down the field.
Yeah. It feels like, and I think whenever you watch this, it holds true that guys that are great athletes that play quarterback at the high school level and use that athleticism a lot to get out of trouble, to create plays, and kind of, use it as a crutch. I think when they go to college, there's a massive learning curve of like, I can't just run around the edge anymore, and go get 35 yards. I've got to be able to create from the pocket, go through reads, and then, okay, I can't get it done from the pocket and I need to break it out, pull it down. It's more so to extend and find guys down the field and continue to make plays with your arm instead of just the instinct when you're the best athlete on the field is just pull it down and run with it. They can't stop me. And I feel like that kind of holds guys back whenever they come to college. Every now and then you've got like the guys that could still do that in college, like a Lamar Jackson or a Jaden Daniels at LSU. Those guys still exist out there, but I like the fact that he likes to play from the pocket.
Yeah. I think a lot of OU fans are also going to enjoy that the Sooners went to the state of California and grabbed the top ranked quarterback out of the state of California. Just that, we'll take that. Thank you very much.
Sounds like a lot of the recruiting guys think that it will not be a shock if he ends up being a 5-star.
Right. That's kind of what I understand. I do want to point out this was the number one thing that stood out to me as I was kind of diving into everything I could find about him after he committed. He did an interview with On Three about his commitment. And there was an extremely interesting quote in there. And here's what O'Neill said. He's talking about Venables, and he said he's been in multiple national championships, so he knows what he's talking about on the defensive side of the ball. Day in and day out throughout practice, I feel like it's going to be an in-game experience dealing with Coach Venables. Ted, I've never heard a high school quarterback say something like that. Normally, you talk about how you fit in the offense, how the scheme fits you, how much you like your position coach, how much you like your coordinator. A quarterback saying he wants to come play at Oklahoma, or at least a big reason why he wants to go play at Oklahoma is because he feels like going against Brent Venables' defense every single day is going to get him prepared to go play in the NFL. That displays a level of maturity that I just did not anticipate from a high school kid. That was,
No,
I'd like to think that I think of a lot of different things when it comes to football, but I had never really thought of that. And it makes all the sense in the world. But usually it's about how do you fit in the offensive scheme? Hey, I want to play in the SEC. No, he goes, I want to play against that crazy Venables guy every day. Like, what?
well, I'll be honest with you. because I hadn't seen that quote until I saw it right here in the rundown as we were talking about it. My first instinct was that is a really great way to get a top quarterback as a defensive head coach. If that's how he was spinning it. But if not, I like where that kid's head's at.
It's probably a combination of both, right?
Yeah,
Like, hey,
well,
I'm going to get you ready. I'm going to get you
yeah.
ready to play quarterback at the next level. I'm going to throw everything at you every single day out on the practice field, and we'll see if you can handle it. But also, for Jaden O'Neal to have that level of awareness, to put that amount of thought into his decision,
I agree.
that's really impressive.
I think it matches up with his look that does not look like he's going into his junior year of high school.
No. So well built, so well
Yep.
built kid. So I mean, very exciting news. Fan base always gets fired up when big time quarterbacks commit. Let's talk a little more recruiting, Ted. Emmett Jones is on an absolute heater.
Mm.
But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's all says you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Hamare.
And celebrate with a Schooner All American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU score, you can join in on the celebration with an ice cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU Athletic events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All American Ale, visit schoonerale.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All American Ale, the taste of game day.
And we love Simple Modern. Simple Modern is an Oklahoma owned drinkware company and number one drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. This summer, Simple Modern launched its Summer Shop, where they drop new and unique drinkware options every other Tuesday all summer long. Now you can get your own limited edition version of their extremely popular 40-ounce Treks in designs you won't see anywhere else. And even better, Simple Modern exists to give generously, donating 10% of all profits, so you can know you're helping better Oklahoma and beyond with every purchase. Check out the Summer Shop and all of their amazing products at simplemodern.com. Emma Jones, recruiting heater. Before we talk about the two guys he's landed here recently, Ted, I would just like to point out, I'm not sure we've talked enough about Emma Jones on here and how much we love this dude.
I know.
I love the way he carries himself. I love how he challenges his guys. I love how demanding he is as a football coach. He is just I'm just a big fan of the way he does things, man. I'm a big fan of the way he goes about his business. And during the season, we get to see it a little more up close and see him interact with those guys. And man, he's just got this great balance of being able to love on them, but also to be able to pull the best out of them when he has to. And all those receivers talk about it, just how much better he's made them. And clearly the guy can recruit also. My goodness.
It's wild. Yeah, he's been incredible. The funny thing is like he essentially had the majority of his 25 recruiting class locked up last year. I mean, there was already a bunch of guys that were committed and ready to go, and he's always staying ahead of the game and very demanding. And this is going to be, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this. It's just kind of a general feeling. Oklahoma, known across the country for wide receivers. I feel like we took a little bit of a dip for whatever reason, even though we still had productive guys. Like I feel like there's a chance if things come together this year that Oklahoma's going to burst back onto the scene and everyone's going to be talking about this receiving core. Whenever you look at what Burks can bring, what Anderson can bring, there's Andrell Anthony. The list just goes on, and then you've got young guys, you've got fast guys, you've got 6'6" guys, you've got all kinds of different body shapes. It really is a great group that he's put together, and I don't know. It's just a hunch, but I feel like they're going to have a breakout year.
I hope you're right because that means the offensive line's playing well, and
Yes, it
that means
does.
I will be in a good mood.
That's right.
But so about what a little over a week ago, Emmett Jones and the staff they land a commitment from Marcus Harris, and this is a guy that goes to school out in California at Modern Day. I mean, everyone knows that program, but seemingly happened kind of out of nowhere. He didn't have OU even on the graphic when he released his top five. Doesn't sound like he was planning on taking an official visit. Emmett Jones convinced him to. He takes the visit, and now he's committed to Oklahoma. So this is a guy that is 6'1", 185 pounds, and you turn on the highlight tape, Ted. Clearly, the speed is good, but the route running is crisp for a young wide receiver, and he is fantastic at finding the football in the air and adjusting to it up in the air and making catches. I mean, he's got some really impressive stuff on his highlight tape.
Kind of
Emmett
reminds me of
Jones,
CeeDee Lamb. Like that was
yeah,
the thing with CeeDee Lamb is he's like kind of in that same ballpark size wise and the body control in the air, man. That's the thing.
he's got it. And one of the things I like about him, I like when receivers can play every position on the field. And I know that, you have guys, some guys that are 6'4", 6'5", that are, yeah, they are prototypical. They're outside wide receiver guys. That's what they are. But I like when you can move a guy everywhere and feel
Mhm.
comfortable that he can execute everything he needs to execute from the slot, from the outside. He can be the middle guy in a 3-by-1 set. Like, I think when you look at Marcus Harris and just how he was used in high school, he looks like a guy that Emmett Jones and this staff, they'll just be able to move him all across the field, be able to motion him in, motion him out. He just motion him across the formation. He just looks like a guy that can do anything you need him to do at any one of the wide receiver positions.
Yeah. And it kind of feels like that is I mean, you get this as all the offenses get closer to one another. It's same thing in the NFL and in college. Feel like the body types of the wide receivers are kind of narrowing into this spot to do exactly what you're talking about. I It's great to have a real big guy on the outside, and I love that. It's great to have a small, shifty guy in the slot. I love that. But what's better is if you have three guys out there that have the length to be outside guys, have the quickness and route running to be inside guys, and you can do everything from those spots. And he fits that bill.
He absolutely does. Now, you mentioned big outside guys. That brings us to the latest commitment for Emmett Jones, and that is a manual choice. Ted, you're going to have to help me. If this kid is actually, I've seen 6'4" some places, I've seen 6'5" others. Let's say he is 6'4". If he's 6'4" and almost 200 pounds, he plays at Lancaster, which all kinds of coaches are going through all the time. How is this guy not a higher ranked recruit? Help me understand that.
I thought the
Because
same
he
thing.
moves incredibly well for a guy. If he's 6'4", he's not a long strider. You know how some of the tall guys, they kind of
Yeah.
look like deers and it takes them a little bit to get going. No, this guy looks smooth. He looks fast. Help me understand it because I have no idea how this guy isn't one of the top ranked wide receivers in the country after what I've seen. And I'm just watching the highlight tape. I understand that. But you talk about size and just how
Check,
athletic and smooth
check,
he looks.
check.
Like I maybe kids are just mutants these days, and there's just a bunch of wide receivers that are better than this guy. I, I completely understand why Emmett Jones was the first guy on him. Well,
Yeah.
that sounded kind
Well,
of weird. You know what I mean.
wide receiver
First
is
guy interested. There we go.
has turned into probably the most competitive spot out there. I mean, what was the deal that Justin Jefferson signed this offseason? $30
$1
million.
billion.
Yeah. I mean, you can see why the elite athletes are really starting to go into the wide receiver position. And my guess is maybe it's a flooded market. You know, I don't know the recruiting game really well, but I know that there does tend to be preferential treatment. Maybe that's not the right phrase, but guys that go to some of these camps, like that are put on by the recruiting groups, and show in front of those guys end up being ranked higher, and maybe he just hasn't had an opportunity yet to go some of those camps. That's just a total guess. Have no idea. That would be one way I could see it.
24/7 Sports has him as the 116th ranked wide receiver. If there are 115 high school wide receivers more talented than this guy, then by gosh, it must be a historic class. Now, you look at the composite, you look at the 24/7 Sports composite, you know how it combines
Mm-hmm.
everything all together. They have him as the 66th overall wide receiver, which once again, if there's 65 guys, remember this is a guy that is 6'4" and 200 pounds and extremely athletic. If there's 65 wide receivers in high school better than this guy, then my goodness, it must be a hell of a class.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we're
There's
missing
sometimes
something. I don't know. Maybe he's slow and I just don't know, but he doesn't look slow on the tape.
I
He's
don't
playing down in Texas.
the caliber of wide receivers that Emmett Jones is bringing in, he's not going to settle on someone. I that's that's not the case. It's not a hey, we got room, we got numbers that we can throw at wide receiver. My guess is, when there's a wide variance between like how guys are rated between services, usually there's going to be a restructuring at some point and they're going to end up getting closer to the same page. Not always, but I would guess that he's going to climb quite a bit.
Well, Emmanuel Choice made his choice and he chose OU over A&M and USC, which when you choose the Sooners over those two schools, you're going to make the fan base very, very happy. Very,
That's
very
right.
happy. But I I really like what I've seen from the guy. Normally when I just saw it initially like 6'4", 200 pounds, I was like, okay, he's going to be kind of a long, maybe kind of lean type of guy. And I turned it on and went, this guy looks good.
Mm-hmm.
So I am just put me in the intrigued category for
I
Emmanuel
like it.
Choice. I'm excited to lay eyes on him whenever he makes his way to Norman. I just because I'm a little confused as to how a guy with that size and that athleticism is not a higher ranked recruit.
I imagine he will probably climb a little bit, but maybe it's like maybe they run the option or something at his high school and he's never getting the football.
Lancaster is known for speed, man. Every
Yeah.
guy that I played with from Lancaster could fly. So I don't
I
know.
don't know. We'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
More good recruiting news.
What?
Yeah, on Tuesday. And you know we're biased towards the OU guys, or excuse me, towards the Oklahoma guys.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hide that. And we got one from Weatherford. Weatherford, America, Ted. CJ Nickson committed to Oklahoma on Tuesday. 6'5", 235 pounds. He is the 74th ranked player in the country, and he is currently the highest ranked player in OU's 2025 recruiting class. All indications are that he's going to start at defensive end. Although I bet Joe John Finley has his eye on this guy. Did I bet there could be a pretty spirited debate among the coaching staff over this young man. He's tall, long, and athletic. What else do you want?
Yeah, there's been a hooper or two that have turned into really good tight ends in the past. So yeah, I imagine there's going to be a roaming eye there from Joe John Finley. But man, Venables, when he came, he made it a point to say that we're going to recruit Oklahoma way harder than what it appears has been done in the past, and the timing has been great because the last couple of years, and I think in the next year, there's some really good players in the state of Oklahoma, and we've done a really good job as a program being able to win out on a big majority of those guys. And here's another one, a hooper, multi-sport athlete can, I a basketball, any type of football, a big guy in football that has a hoops background, typically great feet, great hands, which is, you could go a long way with that in football.
The it's an interesting combination though. Basketball guy, defensive lineman. Normally you think basketball guy for whatever reason you're like no, that guy's going to play offensive football. And I'm not trying to say that all basketball players are not tough enough to play defense or anything like that. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, but it's usually big long athletic guy. He's a tight end. He's not an edge guy. But that's typically how I think of it. So it's an interesting combination, and it it tells me that Brent Venables and Miguel Chavis think this guy is wired the proper way to play in that defense,
Yeah.
which probably tells you he's a little crazy, which is great. Exactly what we need. Give me all the crazy big guys from the state of Oklahoma. Sign me up.
Yeah. You, I think there's been guys that play hoops that still love contact and love the physical nature. And hopefully he's one of those dudes because he's got some great tools, obviously, great height, great length. We continue to bring in guys that have these really nice frames that can grow into really elite, physically gifted players on the edge. I mean, you just look at our defense, really, all three levels, the size and the length has been the upgrade there over the last couple of years under Venables has been excellent.
And when you look at Nickson, he's a guy that needs to be taught the technique of the position. So that's going to be on Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis to get him to use those physical gifts, right? To use the size, to use the length. It's on them to get him the technical part of the position down.
Yeah.
And that's why you pay those guys a bunch of money. Like, hey, I'm bringing you this raw high end athlete, making him a lead edge player. That's your job. Making him an elite edge guy. Teach him how to use his hands. Teach him how to pass rush. Teach him the mentality, the physicality you got to play the position with. Teach him. We'll see. But when you just look at the raw materials, man, oh
It's
boy.
there. It's there. We got a bunch of freaks walking around playing edge at Oklahoma, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we get a guy that's a rush specialist that emerges.
OU's class, currently the fifth ranked class in the 2025 recruiting cycle, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. I think 18 commits now. And every time we talk about rankings, got to bring up who else in the SEC is right there. Bama's at 2, Georgia's at 4, Auburn's at 6, A&M's at 8, and LSU's at 10. So just like we talked about with the blue chip ratio, OU is right where you need to be competitive. You're bringing in the level of talent you need to bring in. And now it is about development, culture, and ultimately execution on Saturdays. So
Yep.
I I don't know what else to say. Oh, we've got the NIL stuff. All the NIL stuff is under one roof now. And that really that ties into the recruiting piece as well. Ted, we've got one Oklahoma. Every OU fan knows where to go if they want to get involved when it comes to donating money for NIL. And it does sound like they're going to put some fun content out, like exclusive content for, about athletes. So it seems like this new group is a little more focused on making sure that fans feel like they're getting something for their money, which I'm all about. And all these people running it appear to care, love, and want the best for Oklahoma, which I think is great as well. And the administration, the coaches, everyone is backing this. Everyone has put something out about it. And that matters that they've got all of that under one roof. And it seems like everyone's on the same page. That's nice.
I love it. Can we stay with this one?
I
we've,
would
we've
say, I think with this is the first one where the university has really come out and backed it,
yeah,
right, publicly. And I think that has a lot to do with the university now being more comfortable doing that with
yeah.
where the rules are at, with how the landscape is right now when it comes to NIL and
It's been
college
tough.
athletics. Yeah,
It's been tough. There's been frustration throughout this thing on, let's get this thing rolling. It's just hard when the landscape's constantly changing. I You want to kind of tiptoe into the water, wade in a little bit, and not go cannonball off the deep end into something that you may have to totally change around in a month or 2 months or 6 months. So it feels like we've got more stability, like more direction, like we know where the framework is. So hopefully this is something that we can all feel confident enough to go bailing off the diving board into this one.
right. And I do think that with how the administration and all the coaches have publicly endorsed this, it clearly signifies that while this collective is still kind of at an arm's length from the university, that the university is going to have as much input as they possibly can in the way that they're operating.
Yep.
And a lot of people think here in a couple of years and maybe even sooner, who knows, with how quickly things are moving, that schools will just be able to completely take over the collective side of things.
It's
And
all
it
going to
just
be done
becomes
in house. It's where the payments are all going to come from. It's where
just
NIL
absorb
deals
it.
will be signed. Yeah.
And it feels like if that day comes, then the relationship that OU has with One Oklahoma, it feels like all those people would be on board with that if that
Yeah.
point in time comes. I don't know if it is going to come, but that's how it feels like that eventually we're getting to a rev share model. They're going to be able to bring all the collective stuff in house and just basically turn it into a marketing arm of the university for the student athletes. Yeah, that's how it feels like this thing is progressing. But I'm just excited that OU fans know where they're supposed to give their money if they want to give their money. Now that it was very confusing for a long time, and now it's not confusing at all. There's one place, and that's how it is at several of the SEC schools that we're going to be competing against. And I love simplifying things,
Oh
and
yeah.
this has simplified a lot, I think, for a lot of people, including
Sim-
recruits
yeah. And that's what you want.
and
Like
transfer portal guys.
you want
It's like,
everything streamlined.
who do I talk to?
Right.
This is the collective. Go talk to them.
You want it streamlined. You want everyone to be on the same page. You want to know exactly what you're working with, where to go, people you trust. Can they back up what they're promising? That's what you want. So it's good to see that we've got it. I'm on board. Love it.
I'm on board. One Oklahoma.
One Oklahoma.
Let's go. I really am excited. I heard the guy that's the CEO talking about it with Eddie and George over at
Mm-hmm.
Center Scoop, and sounds like they got some fun content planned. I'm interested
I
to see
like
what
it.
comes out. Yeah, I'm
Good deal.
excited. All right, let's finish up our winner with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
All you grill masters, listen up. Didier Ranch delivers premium quality beef that is 100% raised in Oklahoma right to your front door. Go to didierranch.com, DIDIER ranch.com to order one of their premium quality beef boxes and use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Filet, ribeye, New York strip, sirloin, steak burgers, they've got it all, and they ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and Oklahomans can get deliveries in just 1 to 2 days. The only thing better than having a lot of premium beef on the O&D line is having premium beef delivered right to your front door. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. Hit up the garage before the T-ball game last night, Ted. Bison
Ah,
burger, delicious.
did we get a big hit and a little hit?
We got a smooth and then kind of smooth. Hey, it was better though. There was less crying. He's starting to display some frustration with like some competitive frustration,
Good.
which I'm just letting it go. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not trying to reel it in at all. I want to see all the competitiveness all the time.
let him work it out. Let him work it out there.
Work out those demons, son. You're gonna be all right. You'll work through
That's
it.
awesome.
The
That's
garage is
awesome.
the perfect spot to watch any big game. And with all the garage, this is why you have to listen to the ads, people. And with all the garage locations being open at 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. Your business wants to be best in class. Connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
How about JJ Redick
Yeah, we haven't talked about that, huh?
gets the Lakers head coaching gig? Um, I know he's been doing the podcasting thing recently. He's called a handful of games. I guess maybe he's called more than I realized,
He
but
called the NBA Finals, Ted.
yeah. And then you get a there's a little bit of a rumor circulating about JJ Redick to the Lakers. Everyone, no, there's no way. And then boom, JJ Redick to the Lakers.
It was the Hurley rumors kind of threw everyone off the scent.
Yeah.
Then that didn't happen. And Redick actually talked about it at his press conference. He was like, I was not offended that they went after Danny Hurley. He's a two-time NCAA champion, back-to-back national champion at UConn. I've won back-to-back like third and fourth grade league championships. I kind of messed up the quote, but it was pretty funny. I I really intrigued, man.
What do
He
you think?
went
What's your
through.
gut tell you? Like,
I just wonder how I don't know how important coaching is in the NBA. That's where I don't have enough knowledge, basketball knowledge, like high level basketball knowledge that can just and it's not like JJ Redick doesn't have an incredible amount of basketball knowledge.
yeah,
Does
I,
coaching experience matter that much?
I feel like in basketball, and maybe it's all levels, but I feel like coaching matters until you get to a point where the players are so good that it doesn't matter anymore. you know, it's like
That's
the
kind of
only,
how I feel.
yeah, it's the only sport where there's like a breakover point to where it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, here's our general idea, here's our, what we're going to run out of bounds plays and stuff like that. And I know rotations and all that. And I don't know. I think with the way it's managed in analytics, it's probably become far less important.
I I just think the toughest part of the job for JJ Redick is going to be how you handle LeBron James.
That's it. The personalities and the egos.
And they were doing a podcast together, which I was heartbroken when JJ Redick said in his presser that he was done podcasting for now. That would have been kind of
Oh,
awesome if they
yeah.
did an occasional couple. And I do feel bad for all the people that were working for that company. That's unfortunate because they were rolling, man. I mean, he was doing really, really well with the
I feel
podcasting thing.
like I feel like with that team specifically, coach is incredibly important. Just because of like what comes with LeBron. You know what I'm like? It has to be managed perfectly. Or like if we've seen what happens like when he doesn't respect guys, or when he's out there standing, a coach is trying to make some calls out there and he's standing right next to him doing the same thing. I feel like it's really important with how fragile maybe that lineup is at the moment. You got an aging LeBron that's not able to just take over like he used to. He's still fantastic. Not saying he's not, but I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be an easy job.
The
And there's
Anthony
a lot of
Davis,
eyeballs.
the Anthony Davis piece of it is also very interesting.
Dude, he's easy. You coach in like 5 game spurts. 5 games off 10 because of injury. 5 games off 10 because of injury. That's the easy part.
I so one of my high school basketball teammates he played with JJ Redick in Orlando. And I get the sense that JJ Redick is not going to take anything from anyone from the way that he described him when they were playing together.
Well, that's good.
So
I mean, you got to know how to manage it. You know how it is. You've got to be able to be demanding and confident in what you're coaching, what you're preaching, and how you handle it with the players, because there's like a fine line in there whenever it's overboard or it's not enough.
most important question. JJ Redick going to be, is he going to be one of those coaches that tries to bring the suit back? Or is he going quarter zip like the rest of them?
I I feel like he'd be a quarter zip guy, but I guess I don't know him that well.
I I
He's
don't
like a
know him at
style
all,
guy.
but it seems he's probably, I mean, he's an ex-athlete. He's going to go for comfort,
Comfort.
right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Has no experience, hasn't coached high school, hasn't coached college, is the head coach of the Lakers. It's unbelievable. And it gives all podcasters hope. Ted, you're going to be the coach for the Patriots next year. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're not leaving
Well,
the podcast. Come on. You wouldn't leave for the Patriots job.
no, no. Are you kidding me?
Shut
I
up. If you didn't leave this podcast, if they said, Ted, we want you to be the head coach of the New England Patriots, you you have to take it.
I would do it for the final 2 games of the regular season after what's his name's been fired. Like Saturday did.
You
That's what I
d-
would I would say yes to that.
I think you would thrive in a Jeff Saturday type role.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just
all
kind of
right,
stand
guys.
around and point and like over there, not really doing anything, just kind of looking official. Yeah. I would definitely bring back the suit and tie on the NFL sideline.
No way.
Yeah.
You can't that there's not a tie that fits that neck. Come on, man.
No, I wouldn't. I wish I could, but I hate wearing it's just no. No. But I would take it as I would thrive in an interim coach position.
I think I would as well. Interim, I'd be a perfect interim coach. Basically like a substitute teacher.
That's it.
Just here,
No
I'm just here for the
expectations.
vibes.
Here for the vibes. We're just gonna, hey guys, I get it.
Let's have fun.
Let's have
Let's
some
have some
fun.
fun.
We're gonna change some things up just to, Get out of the old rhythm and into the new one. Yeah, be great.
Who do you have as your loser of the week?
Oh my God, Texas A&M. What has just happened, Gabe?
Can you believe that, dude?
No, I've never. It has to be. Maybe there's been another situation like it, but Texas, like it sounds from what, and who knows at this early point what's true, what's not, what rumors have some legs to them, what don't. It sounds like this deal's maybe been done for quite a while, and Texas fires their coach on the day of the final game of the College World Series, already basically knowing the deal's done, just to create the distraction. And it's just the whole situation is incredible.
I Football's a completely different conversation, but I can't think of a more satisfying thing for a Texas fan.
Yes.
I mean, maybe do you think they hate us more than they hate A&M currently?
I think that I I think the hate towards Oklahoma is competition based, and the hate towards A&M is like primal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
a difference there. I One is like we clash on the field, and that's what it's. The other one is like we clash everywhere else, and I just I can't believe he's going there.
It's got to be because Schlossnagle was at TCU when Chris Del Conte was
Yes.
the athletic director there.
Mm-hmm.
That's got
Had a
to
ton
be
of
it,
success. Yeah.
right?
I mean, yes, but still, you're at TCU, then you're at Texas A&M, and then you go to Texas. There has to be. Is there no like? There's nothing you won't stoop to, like the right amount of money and an old buddy. You'll just like pull the pin on the grenade and toss it in the room and lock the door as you walk out. Like there's no like there's nothing that's too far.
I almost respect it. Like the stones it takes to make that move.
I know it's
That's crazy, man. You were up 1-0 in the champ series. You lose
yes.
the final two. Last game got a little tight there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And what the team arrived, your fan base is celebrating you. Oh, great effort, boys. Like 6 hours later after that, you're off to Austin.
After let's not forget filleting a journalist in the post game for asking the question that everyone is talking about. Would you like to make a statement about how you're staying at Texas A&M? Well, in a roundabout way, I guess maybe I will.
Never say
I will.
never, Schlossnagle. Never say never out loud, brother. Not if you're in the coaching world. Don't do it, man.
Uh, and he already knew.
There's no
He
way
already
he
knew.
didn't already know.
I mean, there's a better way to avoid that. You know, I I don't know what it is. I guess you say, listen, I know that's the rumor right now. I'm not gonna even address that right now. What we're talking about is the great effort these guys had all season. Whatever you know what I'm saying? Like I I don't know. It's just hey, sign me up though. Like to be able to watch this from afar, I don't know that there's anything better.
Oh, it's fantastic. I I can't think of really anything like it. A lot of people want to bring up Lincoln Riley leaving OU for USC. It doesn't feel the same to me at all. Like this feels like it's going to create violence.
Yeah,
that's that's how it feels to me.
Lincoln left after a disappointing season that everyone hated. And, it had been rumored that he may be leaving for quite some time. I mean, it was the LSU thing. Like, it wasn't USC. I don't remember anyone bringing that up, but there was something weird going on for a long time. And then he leaves and goes, across the country out to the West Coast. Totally different than playing in the national championship game the night before and then leaving and going to the bitter in-state rival that's just right down the road.
I what an interesting situation for OU fans. Like on one side, Jim Schlossnagle's clearly an awesome baseball coach.
He's the
All that
track
dude
record
does is
proves it.
send teams to Omaha.
That's right.
So, do I love that Texas has that guy now? No. Do I love that things unfolded for A&M the way they did in this situation? Of course, it's hilarious. So I'm sitting here going,
Like
well,
one of
damn, I
them was
don't,
going to have him. Does it really
yeah,
matter to us which one, as long as
yeah.
the other one got robbed of him?
It's just
Brutal
wildly
crap.
entertaining. We're just here to be entertained, people.
That's it.
And that
It's
is,
a soap opera, man.
oh my gosh. Twitter was ablaze. It was fantastic.
Uh, that's an all timer, and we're just a couple of hours into it. I feel like this one's going to last a long time.
No
Oh
doubt
my
about it.
gosh.
All right, let's finish up with my winner and loser. But first, what if for the rest of 2024, you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. 1 in 5 Americans have learn a new language on their bucket list. And if that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. And here's a special offer for our listeners, and it's only for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off of your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Oklahoma. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Just use Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. We travel a lot. Ted, you best believe next time we travel, I'm going to do some Babbel.
Love it.
Try to learn the language where we're going, try to be able to order at restaurants, ask for directions. Love getting lost on vacation. It's fantastic. I want to do all that stuff. Greet people, greet strangers. What Babbel's for. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/Oklahoma. That's BABBEL.com/Oklahoma. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
My winner of the week, college football debates. God bless you, EA Sports. I mean, just late June content, late June arguments, late June discussions. EA Sports College Football 25, just creating chaos for college football fans. Ted, they're releasing a bunch of different rankings this week. They're going to release the top offenses and top defenses for the game later this week. They're also going to release the team power rankings. But on Tuesday, they dropped their 25 toughest places to play. And wow, did it create quite the discourse. I mean, some people were pumped, some people were pissed. Shout out to EA Sports for the June chaos, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's great when in June and July, it's easy to stoke the fires. It's easy to stoke the fires. A little top 25 list of whatever you want it to be is going to get people heated, especially when you've got all eyes on you right now with the game coming out. Easy, low hanging fruit.
Gaylord family, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, checks in at number 8. Pretty dang good, man. I was fired up when we were on there at 8.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I think that's a pretty good place for it. And I think I think this year it's going to be on display. It's been a while since you've been able to point to Oklahoma and say, "My goodness, look at that in-game atmosphere." But when the big games happen, Oklahoma fans show up in a massive way. So, 8 I think is fair, and I think we could climb higher this year with some of the games we've got.
I did see quite a few people questioning why OU was in the top 10. And I do think the number of games that we've won at home,
Record at home, I mean,
it's
that's
just been that I have to imagine that factored in to these rankings for EA Sports quite a bit. But I did see this from Mike Golick Jr. Quote, good to see Oklahoma get the respect it deserves.
he played there in 12, right?
Those are the words of a man that has seen that stadium at its absolute best.
Yep.
That
Striped it.
was
It's great.
that was undoubtedly the best atmosphere I played in college. I'm sorry we lost the game, guys. We didn't play very well. But I remember the first quarter of that game going, "Oh my God, this place is on fire."
Hmm.
And that is what this fan base is capable of when the game feels massive. So I was
Yep.
really excited to see that from Golick Jr. because he lived it. He experienced it as an opposing player coming into that stadium.
No, that's cool. That's cool. And you know, typically, it's no surprise who has the best, like the most difficult place to play is the best teams. Like it's hard to beat them because of how good their team is and the fans, right? But Kyle Field is like the rare exception of that to where you don't have a team that's a traditional power, but everyone that walks into that stadium for the first time is like, "Oh my God." It just goes straight up out of nothing, and it's it's pretty cool. I
It's
it
number one.
trust me. I'm no A&M fan, and I like to laugh and make fun of them as much as anyone else, but they got a stadium.
We just laughed and made fun of them for losing their baseball coach. But I tell you, when I saw them at number one, no argument from me.
So,
Especially, especially, and I was playing guard at the time, especially if the center snaps the quarterback or snaps the ball over the quarterback's head on the first play of the game for a safety.
woo,
Do not recommend.
don't do that.
Don't do that. That's not a
Uh,
good way to keep that place quiet. Do not recommend. But Bryant Denny in Tuscaloosa at number two, LSU Tiger Stadium at three, the Horseshoe at four, which I won't lie, I was not blown away by
I
that
agree.
stadium, but we went and beat him. And what was that, 17?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe we just didn't get it on its best day.
yeah.
Sanford Stadium there in
Never
Athens at
been there.
five. Never
It
been.
feels like I think that's kind of maybe been known for kind of a sleepy like fan base until Kirby Smart took over and they've gone on this run. I think it's according to what people have said,
Yeah,
it's been
I've
cranked up.
I've heard Josh Pate talk about that quite a bit. Like, hey,
Yeah.
it used to not be good, but now Sanford Stadium there in Athens gets going. Beaver Stadium, I don't know how much the whiteout gets them that high.
I don't know. I love it though. I
It
love that stadium.
it
It
looks
looks
awesome.
awesome.
Camp Randall at seven, that place looks nuts. And just knowing every guy that I know quite a few guys that played at Wisconsin.
They're all crazy.
They're all crazy. They
Yeah.
all have an incredible time every time we're together. I assume that place is just bonkers. We were at eight. Doak Campbell, which I cannot even put into words how loud it was when we went there in 2011.
Well, watching
Oh,
their fan base when we played them a couple years ago, I can imagine. I've never been there. I know you guys went in there and won.
ooh.
I bet it's crazy.
Swamp checks in at 10. A couple other notables, Neyland Stadium at 13. A lot of OU fans that went to that game have told me
It
that
was
that's about
awesome.
as good as they've ever seen.
It was awesome. Yes.
Jordan Air, which we will be making the trip
We'll be
this
there
year.
this year.
They're checking in at 14. Williams Bryce, which is South Carolina, will be making that trip next season. They check in at
Yep.
15. Longhorns checking in at 19. Darrell K. Royal Stadium, which, by the way, never forget, played at OU.
It's got to be the lowest ranked 100,000 seat stadium on the list. Has to be.
I, yeah, I have never heard anyone say, "Did you see the atmosphere in Austin?"
I know.
Although
I
you
bet
put
they've
a,
suffered from what we've suffered from a little bit, just the schedule just hasn't been crazy. I know they hosted Alabama a couple years ago. It was probably big for that.
yeah, I assume it was rocking. Thanks, EA Sports. And thanks for putting OU in the top 10. It made me feel really good. I don't know.
How about this? What we've obviously OU's won at Kyle Field. We've won at Bryant Denny. We've won at the Horseshoe. I don't think we've ever played at Sanford or Beaver or Camp Randall. One at Doak Campbell. I mean, we've done a pretty good job in the spots that we've actually played.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. I I don't know what that means for this season or next season or our
It means nothing.
our SEC era, but hey, I love
We need to start checking some off. We need to check off Tiger Stadium, and I guess we'll get a chance to check off the Swamp at some point.
Jordan Air. Remember, the H is silent.
Jordan Air. Yep.
H is silent, like it's not even there, OU fans. All right, my loser of the week. It's hard to call the best hockey player on the planet the loser of the week, but that's where I'm at with Connor McDavid. I think it's widely accepted that he is the best hockey player on the planet. So it's hard to feel bad for the guy. But I can't imagine. I assume you've dreamt your entire life of winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, right? Because if you win the Conn Smythe, typically that means you are hoisting the Stanley Cup above your head. If you win the Conn Smythe, if you win the Stanley Cup Playoffs MVP award, you have it in one arm and you've got the cup in the other, and you're skating around and you've got the biggest smile on your face ever, but not for Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
They
It's
lose
supposed
in
to be
game
the cherry
7.
on top.
It's supposed to be the cherry on top. And
Ugh.
this, it was like the consolation prize for him because he's incredible.
And it
I,
had the makings of one of like the greatest, like an awesome story too.
oh, down 3-0, which, by the way, we need to make a correction. This is what happens when we try to talk hockey. The 1942 Maple Leafs did not blow the 3-0 lead, Ted. They came back from the 3-0
Okay.
deficit.
Okay.
The Detroit Red Wings blew the lead in 1942. So, going back to our celebrity golf analogy, that makes Oklahoma State the Maple Leafs and you, Dusty and Curtis, the Red Wings.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad we straightened that up.
Just wanted to point that out.
Oh,
Someone
man.
tweeted me about it. I was like, all right, I will issue a
There you
correction
go.
on the next podcast.
I appreciate that. That's good.
Just in case you had forgotten about blowing the 2-hole lead in the charity scramble. Just wanted to make sure. Details are important. Okay.
Well, I would give Dusty the Conn Smythe trophy with his tee shot on the first hole. That's the hardest one. You got everyone standing around, all the nerves. You haven't hit a shot yet, and he stood up there and blasted a drive. So, if we have a loser that gets to hoist the trophy, it'd be Dusty.
Well, Dusty would be feeling just like Connor McDavid. Dude, what do you do with that trophy? You win the playoffs MVP trophy. It's a massive honor. It's a big deal. I think I heard it's only happened like 6 times in the history of the NHL where someone wins it and isn't on the team that won the cup. You can't display it in your house. It would just bring you constant pain. Every time you look at it, you're like, oh, yeah, we lost game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. I want to cry. Why is this trophy out? Someone destroy it. Like, what do you do with that if you're Connor McDavid?
I don't know. I don't know. Bubble wrap it, throw it up in the attic, I guess. I don't know.
Don't bring it out until you actually win a cup.
There you go.
That's the
That's
moment of acceptance.
that's probably it. Because you're right. Other than that, it's like, oh yeah, there's the time I was just good enough to lose it.
Oh, awesome. The trophy that reminds me of one of the lowest points of my life. Hooray. Like, I'm sure he wants nothing to do with it, man. And that's
Yeah.
where the only thing I could think of, you're probably right. You probably put it away in storage. And if you're Connor McDavid, you're going, I'm going to win a cup someday. I'm going to win another Conn Smythe. And then I'm going to put this one next to that one. And well, it'll look good. But the only other thought I had is like auction it off for charity or something like that. I don't know, man. But I just can't imagine especially with how hockey guys are wired, how superstitious some of these guys are when it comes to trophies and touching stuff and all that. I don't know. I feel like you just can't display it if you're him.
He's probably going to put his alarm clock in it. Is it like a cup? What is it? The
It's
trophy.
kind of a funky shaped. I mean, they were showing it on the broadcast. It's kind of like got a giant maple leaf on the top of it. It's not alarm clock material. It's not like a bowl you can't really like
Yeah.
drink out of or anything like. It's
It's
a
prob
massive trophy.
it's probably going to be sitting like right next to the sink where he brushes his teeth every morning so he can look at it and have it as motivation to go win the damn Stanley Cup.
I I mean, look at this thing. I just don't think you can. I mean, it's substantial, dude.
Oh my God.
It's
Yeah,
huge.
put that in the kitchen on the island. You got to
I
be
mean,
reminded of it.
this is what it looks like when someone's holding it. Like it is a
Oh
huge
yeah.
trophy.
Yeah, that's massive. That's
So not
massive.
only is like it's a massive painful reminder that you lost the Stanley Cup if you're Connor McDavid.
Yeah, just brutal. But he's probably going to look at it every day as motivation. That I guess that's about all you can do.
Last time a Canadian team won the cup, still 1993.
That's isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Feel bad for him, honestly.
Close.
It would be like,
Bob was too good.
I mean,
Too good in between the pipes.
can you imagine if that would be like the United States having not a team from the United States having not won the Super Bowl since 1993. That damn Mexico City and
The
British
Germans beat us
Columbia
again.
again every year. We're so close. Yeah, that's got to be brutal.
Birthday shout outs. Happy 22nd birthday to all we got was Gavin.
Nice. Happy birthday, Gavin.
Happy 22nd birthday, Gavin. On that note, episode 434 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. The voice of the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yes.
Toby Rowland. We're going to be talking about OU officially going into the SEC. So that's going to be a lot of fun with T Row. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great start to your week. Rest of your week. Rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do we always do, Oklahoma? Take care of each other.